Hello, air signs, and welcome to your daily focus tarot for Thursday. Today you had Nine of Swords come out sideways and Five of Cups come out in the reverse. So the Nine of Swords in the upright, it looks like this. The swords represent, being able to balance. Swords are generally thoughts, and it's being able to balance, two sides of the sword. To balance the sword, you have to be able to use the sword. It has to be in balance. Sorry, I'm having trouble getting out what I'm trying to say. So the sword, it has two cutting sides, right? It has the middle and the hilt, the handle, and it has, why did that do that? And it has the two cutting sides on the sword, right? So this is talking about, when you're talking about your swords, you're talking about your thoughts, you're talking about balancing those two halves, like the negative and the positive, the male and female. Some books, when it talks about tarot and it talks about swords, it talks about balancing good and evil. So this card, you see the swords are hung up on the wall behind this person, right? So they're not actually able to cut the person and harm the person or stab the person. They're I don't want to say they're in the person's mind. Like the other deck that I have, it's more like they're in the person's mind and the person is thinking about these thoughts. Here you can actually see them on the wall. They're solid, but they're not anywhere where they can harm the person. The person, is still thinking about these thoughts, about these things that they can't really balance, that they can't use because of the imbalance. They're thinking about it, but these thoughts, they can't harm the person because they're stuck up on the wall. So you have this, it's neither reversed nor is it in the upright. It came in sideways. So you're kind of in between. You're working on, and your focus should be on getting this actually in the reverse, like being able to heal from these negative thoughts that you've kind of put them in their place because they're on the wall, but you haven't fully gotten over them. You're still thinking about them in the background, right? Now this is Princess of Swords or Page of Swords, and you'll notice she's wrapped a scarf. What color is the scarf? I think it's green. I think it's the color of healing and abundance. So she's wearing blue, green, and purple. So this is higher spirituality, fluidity, the upper chakras, the colors of healing, the colors of knowing. And she's wrapped this sword, not the handle, not the hilt. She's wrapped the actual blade, the cutting edges of it with this scarf of healing. So this is a card, it can be a card of inspiration, a card of seeking knowledge and learning, but it can also be, to me in this instance, it's very much about you healing, you really focusing on putting those swords not just on the wall behind you, but firmly in the past behind you, and recovering from whatever this is that hurt you. Now Five of Cups came out in the reverse. I'll show it to you in the upright. This people think of as the card of crying over spilled milk, the card of not realizing what you still have because you're focused on what you've lost. So this figure here is leaning away. The water is representing, your unconscious, what's hidden from you. your emotional state, your spirituality, stuff that is in flow from you. And this card, when it's in the upright, he's leaning away from this knowledge. And you see a hand here reaching out for a fish from the water. So it's like a hunger for understanding your unconscious and your spiritual, your emotional well-being. And it's like he's avoiding that hunger when it's in the upright. So when it's in the reverse, this card is talking about forgiveness, acceptance, moving on, concluding unfinished emotional business. So like it's a card of wisdom. It's a card of understanding, you know, what you were reaching for with that hunger, and maybe why it wasn't for you, right? Stuff happens in a way that if something isn't right for you, then it's not going to happen. You know, there's going to be delays. The person will, if it's a love relationship, the person will show that in some way they're not for you. You know, maybe they cheat, maybe they just don't answer your phone calls, they ghost you, whatever the reason. This card being in the reverse, it's a good card, because this is about a resolution. This is about finally putting those swords firmly in the past and no longer thinking about them anymore. No longer trying to understand them when it doesn't help you move on with your life. So this is a card of moving on with your life when it's in reverse. And at the bottom of the deck we have justice and the star. So the star is about the waters flowing again, the creativity, the new day, the softening, because water can carve a path through rock, so it can carve a path through the solid ground. And you can see this star and the crescent moon here. And we have Stonehenge, which talks about, you know, the different like summer solstice, winter solstice, different solstices of the year. So different new beginnings in life, new beginnings of time, new openings, when things are shifting from, you know, the summer solstice. I'm probably going to get this wrong. Sorry, I've been sick. So the summer solstice is longest day, longest amount of sun, and shortest amount of darkness, shortest night, if I'm saying that correctly. And winter solstice is the opposite. So it talks about, the solstices talk about the sun waning and the sun gaining. And therefore, things are shifting around. Things are shifting back and forth. So when you're talking about like Stonehenge and you're talking about stuff flowing, like the water carving a path in the rock as she's pouring it over the rock, and it's making its own path. So creativity is flowing, emotions are flowing, the unconscious is flowing again, and there's this shift between, like, if you want to think of darkness as being negative, I tend to think of it as being more like a womb where you can grow. Like if you're isolated, if you're in the dark, it's maybe a time where you're not necessarily trying to be hustling and bustling. Wintertime is a time where you spend a lot of time indoors. You're secluded, but you're also learning, you're growing, you're resting, you're nurturing yourself, you know, with these eating heartier foods, with these festivities. Whereas in the summer, when there's lots of light and people are outdoors, animals are outdoors, bugs are outdoors. You're busy, 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 busy working. Um, you're just constantly on the go in the summertime, and you grow in terms of like you're growing food, you're growing plants, you're growing relationships, but you're not growing as a person. It's all like external growth as opposed to internal growth that you get in the wintertime when it's darker, when you're in that sort of womb like state. You're sort of nurturing yourself. So there's a difference between external growth and internal growth. And to me, this card, the Star, is like your internal growth is starting again. You're having the sunrise with Stonehenge. You're having the lighter days, but it's balancing out. You have the Justice card here. This Justice, her scales are balanced quite evenly, and look at the way she's holding it. She's holding it almost like there would be a sword down here, like there would be the cutting blade here, and she's holding her sword, her knowledge, her balance up in the air, and she's holding it quite, the way that she's holding the two, they also balance. The thoughts and the spirituality balance here. She's got that ability to balance her actions and her thoughts, her communication with what she wants to hold back for herself and only herself. And then at the bottom of the deck, what's hidden from you, we have the Sun and the Two of Wands. So the Sun, the path out of the darkness, the ability to create anew and to grow in all senses of the word. And the Two of Wands, which is the path finding, the finding to, out of the darkness into the sunny yellow ground, the way in between the doorway and the path to the top of the hill, to where you can see more clearly, where the skies are clearer and sunnier and brighter, and it's not this in-between world of the Star or this cloudy world of the Justice. It's like a very bright world. It's not, this is bright, but it's also kind of dark. This is bright, not so dark, but this is definitely a very, very dark card. But Two of Wands, you're finding your path. Focus on putting all the negative stuff into perspective. Not just putting it behind you in the past, but putting it into perspective and neutralizing it. You neutralize negative thoughts by putting them into perspective, by finding this balance, by finding this flow again, this creativity, this not all light, not all dark, but in between, this new space for yourself. Have a great Thursday. I'll see you tomorrow.